two types of foot pedals. So we're going to actually look at them today and talk about it. And I'm going to try to keep it simple, but so that it makes sense without messing this up.
But we are visual, so that helps.
Yeah.
Visual.
So let me give me a moment here to switch over my camera. And we're going to get started on this. All right. So what we have here, we have two different foot pedals, as you can see, right? We've got an old standard metal one and one of the new plastic ones, okay? So what we're going to talk about is, I believe, I haven't actually opened this one up yet.
We have others.
So we may be sorely disappointed when we open this if it's not what I think it is. But so this is what they consider a single speed foot pedal, and there are different types. Some of them are really thin but they're all basically working the same, right? So as you know, all of these motors run off of 120 volts AC, right? So AC means alternating current. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this up real quick. Hopefully real quick.
Sometimes I got all those for.
Yeah. So I'm going to open this so we can look at this, and I'm going to kind of explain how these work, because you still get variable speed with one of these foot controllers, right? And that's what was throwing me off. It was like it's either on or off to me if it's a single speed. If somebody says, well, it's single speed, that means it's either on or it's off. But this, we can get variable speed with this. The difference is how that actually happens, right? So let me pull this open. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get the rest of this out of here. This out of the way.
They're never fun.
No, they're not. You got to get those two. You got to get these two up over this lip here, and that is not always easy. So bear with me for a moment here. Maybe.
What do you want me to do?
Actually, do we have a rubber mallet handy?
Well, handy, I don't know. That's what I normally do.
Right. All right. Okay, sorry about that. Didn't expect to need this. So I'm just going to kind of gently tap here until I can get that past. I'm going to try not to hit the camera anymore. Okay, so I got those. You see these two little raised parts here. You got to get them past that lip. So once we do that, we should be able to get this the rest of the way open. Oh. Whew.
And blue paper sometimes helps.
Yeah. All right. So this is what's considered a single speed foot pedal. And the way this works is as you push the foot pedal down, right, you can see that moves across there. Okay. So these are basically very simple resistors is what they are. So what that does is this is running on 120 volts, right? So these break that voltage down. In other words, they're lessening the amount of voltage. When you're all the way over here, you're getting full voltage, which means you're getting full power to the machine, full speed, right? But if you're only down in here, you're only getting enough voltage just to move the motor. You're not getting the full 120 volts, which means you're not getting as much power to the motor and therefore to the machine. So if you've ever tried starting out slow and it has trouble getting through some thicker layers or something, and you kind of got to help it out, that's why, because without the full voltage going to the motor, it just doesn't have the strength to actually turn. It will move, and it will move slow, but it's not running at slow with the same amount of torque as it does when it's all the way up here, right? So I hope that makes sense. Trying to think of any other way I can explain it, because the way these motors are made, They run off 120 volts, and when they have a full 120 volts, they're running at full speed and full power, full torque,
So
right?
you're basically dividing that by what, 6?
Yeah,
Seven?
1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, and then the seventh one is full speed.
Right.
So, yeah, without as much voltage going in, the motor's just not going to be as strong as you want it to be. It's still going to be slow, and then we'll gain speed, but it also starts out weak and then gains power.
So Terry's asking if that's true for all foot pedals, which it would be for anything that uses resistor type. So like in your featherweight that's got the ceramic, it kind of works the same way, but instead of resistor coils, you have a stack of carbon discs in there. And so the more contact between those carbon discs, then the more, but it's still distributing that voltage though, right?
Right.
In the carbon one.
Yeah, and that's also why old metal foot pedals will get warm. Okay, is because when the current can't flow at full speed, you know, at a full current all the way through, that electricity gets dissipated by heat. Okay, so that's why older foot pedals can get hot, and especially if you're doing a lot of slow speed sewing, that generates more heat because all that excess voltage has to go somewhere, and it's turned into heat. If you're sewing at full speed, your foot pedal's probably not going to get very hot.
But most of us don't sew at full speed.
Right, and that's the issue. So let's leave that one sitting there. And now we're going to look into this one, all right? And this is a modern foot controller, TJC 150. Okay, and you can see 115, 120 volts, 60 hertz, right?
I couldn't find an actual Kenmore one, so that's okay. But that's okay.
That's all right. So on these, I don't know if any of you guys have had to open these up yet.
I hate them.
Basically, what you got to do is just kind of pry it open here to get this off these little pins. So there you go. So as you can see in here, we don't have all of these coils and resistors and all that stuff, right? So what this system is set up to do is basically, all right, so I'm going to go back to this real quick. Well, no, backside of this. So this 60 hertz, right? So alternating current. Let me see if I can remember all this from back in the day. So 60 hertz is basically the is it the wavelength? Hand me my phone, would you? Because I saved that blog post. Yeah. I want to make sure I tell you guys correctly here, okay? So, all right. So the hertz is basically the frequency, right? So AC is alternating current, which we talked about a minute ago. So it's basically changing polarity, which means it's a wave and it's going up and down, right? Okay. So the 60 hertz is the number of times it does that in a second. Okay. So this is changing its current or its frequency 60 times per second, right? So what this foot pedal does, okay, is it, rather than just lessening the voltage, it actually controls the number of cycles that wave that goes through per second. Okay, so instead of being at full blast at 60 cycles per second, it can slow it down to say 20 cycles per second. What that does is it still allows the same amount of voltage to go through, just at a slower cycle, right? So you're still getting 120 volts going to the motor, which means one of these variable speed foot pedals is actually going to give your machine more power at a slower speed. And I know that's a lot to take in and a lot to think about. The big takeaway from this is just that, though. The old ones will go slow, but they're not as powerful. The new ones with the variable speed will allow you to go slow and still maintain the strength of the motor. It still be just as powerful even at slower speeds. So that is the big difference. These you have to solder in. You can see that's those are soldered onto the board here, right? And then all this does is this is a sliding potentiometer, basically, right? And the way I wish I could tell you exactly how all this works, but basically, this is basically what changes that frequency of the alternating current. So at full speed, I'm guessing it's 60 hertz. At down here, it's 0, right? And then somewhere in the middle, you get 20 to 30, 40, 50, all the way up to 60. Okay. Whereas with this one, here you have 0 voltage. Here you have 120 voltage. And then in between here, you could, divide that up by 6 or whatever. To say, okay, so here maybe we have 60 volts AC, right? As opposed to here we have 120, here we have 0. This one you always have 120 volts. So that is the big difference between the two.
So where this matters is if you're working on a machine and you know what your customer uses your machine for. This actually, I wish I would have thought about this a long time ago, because if you have a customer that's using even a vintage machine like a Kenmore to sew through multiple heavy layers, it would probably serve them better to have the modern one with the plastic variable, because they're still getting the same amount of power with variable speed.
Right.
Whereas with the metal one, you're just going to get lessened power behind it. So thank you for that, Melanie. That really helped us to dig deeper, because we hadn't really thought about.
I
do know about the resistance and how it works, but I did not realize that it actually distributes its power across all of those settings.
All right, so I'm gonna put this back together.
Oh, also, if you were going to change this out now, though, you would have. Can you just don't do it, obviously, but can you cover what you would do if you were going to, because you did this before, didn't you have to unsolder?
Yeah,
it is an ordeal. So in that case, I do recommend just replacing it. Melanie was looking on Sewing Parts Online this morning, and they're actually sold out of the single one, but my distributors sometimes have them when Sewing Parts Online doesn't. And this is the type that Paul did in the shop with the lady hovering over him. That was very nerve-wracking, because all this comes out, and then on the bottom side here, you have to take out the solder and then resolder it. So,
or there is another option. So if you've seen our motor rewiring, you know that we like to use these for rewiring motors. So theoretically, you could do the same thing in here, right?
Yep.
If you can pull enough wire into here, just cut it, strip it back, put one of these on there, put your new wires coming in, heat it up with a heat gun, and it's soldered. That way you don't have to worry about taking it out or anything else.
That's the first time we looked at those since we hadn't thought about that.
Since we started using these, I haven't had to do any of that, so it hadn't really occurred to me until just now. But these heat and seal solder connectors would be excellent for that right there.
But it really is just cost effective usually to just buy the new one. I think they have them priced at like $39 for the for the single. I don't know, for one of them, and $32 or $35.
Yeah, there's not much difference in the price. All right, so putting this back together, there's a little tab here that hooks on over that little tab. Nothing else really moves. You've got this spring here that goes over this. So as long as you get that there and that there, you should just be able to push it down, pop it back together.
The other thing I want to remember to mention on these, if you have these on your machine and you are experiencing the issue where it's literally running at one speed, where it's either on or off and there's nothing in between, chances are, if you look, a lot of times there's lint builds up because of these holes in here. So cleaning it sometimes helps. Otherwise, you need to inspect every single part of these springs. If there's a piece of rust or something blocking this connection, it's really going to go either, fast or slow. And sometimes we've actually had to replace the entire thing just because this was so worn or damaged.
Or broken.
Yeah,
if this wire comes undone, right, you may not get anything between here until you push it all the way down and it connects here, right? So if that wire is broken, then you're going to have to replace the foot pedal anyway.
While you have that out, can you see if we can help Melanie fix this part. When she opened it, the springs kind of, I think the wires went everywhere.
yeah.
So she needs to know. So I guess be careful when you open it, but she needs to know where the
All right.
wires go.
All right, so let me get this open here. So this is a foot pedal off of a Kenmore. A lot of the old Kenmores have a plug on the back with 3 prongs that you just stick on there like this.
And we used to hoard these because you used to not be able to buy lead cords or any type of plug like that.
Yeah, we've got a ton of these things
which is
around.
probably why they're sold out sometimes, because they're still a new product, in my opinion.
Okay, and you can see it's actually numbered 1, 2, 3, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to open this up and see what's going on. So the other thing, you've got 2 cables coming out, right? 2 cords. Let me divide these up so I can make sure I tell you which one's which, because that is important to know when we open this up in case everything goes flying. Right? So let me get these 2 separated out. Good grief. They've been wound up quite a while.
So this one
all right, so this one goes to the wall.
Yep. Here.
Okay.
And that goes to the pedal.
And this goes to the foot pedal. All right. So wall, foot pedal, wall, foot pedal. All right. So this is made so that it just has 2 screws that hold it together. There's not even any nuts on the back, so you don't have to worry about trying to catch anything as you undo it. So we're going to undo 1 and 2. Now, the other thing to keep in mind with this is these, on these really old ones, this is Bakelite. And if you're familiar with any of the vintage machines that have Bakelite can get fragile over the years. Okay, so always be careful when you're messing with these. All right, so we've got this undone. Let's see if I kind of peek in here a little bit. Okay, I'm going to flip this over. See if I can open this without everything going flying. Okay. So here's what we have. All right, so since I flipped this, this is going to the wall. This side's going to the foot pedal, right? And what I can see here, I'm trying to keep my thumb on these so they don't come out, right? But what you can see is going to the foot pedal. I have, okay, so 1 is on this end. I have wires from the foot pedal going to 1 and 3, okay? And then the wiring from the wall plug is also going to 1, but then it's going to 2. And these just sit in there, all right? So now that I know that, hold on, let me take a picture. And then we're going to take this completely apart. Okay. Wow, that was kind of neat. All right. So we got this taken apart. So now we can take this off, right? And here's what you have. So you have all of these wires are soldered on to these clips, right? And when you plug that up, that's what makes your connection. Okay. Now, we know that the motor went to 1 and 3. Okay. And we know that the wall plug side goes to 1 and 2. Okay, and if I flip this over, that's 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. And they're just going to sit in there. They don't snap in place or anything. They literally just sit there just like this. And if you think about it, right, when you plug this in, the 3 prongs go in here. So you want to make sure that on the one that has both of them go into it, that when the prong comes in, it's going to be connected with both sides, right? I really think there's really about only one way to put this in like this, where you have both of them connected. But you can see, so we've got long side and the long side are on the outside. On the inside are the 2 short sides of that. And here you can see what I'm talking about with that. So you got a long side and a short side. On these other 2, it doesn't really matter. when the prong goes in, it's going to go on one side or the other. But on this one, it needs to go between the two.
So on Melanie's, one of the prongs is separated from the wire. She's wondering, does she need to do solder too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll need to solder that back on there. And I can see this one here. I mean, it's on there, but half the wiring is loose. And that's not really a big deal. As long as you still have a good solid connection and it doesn't way loose, you'll be okay. So yeah, there you go. So I've got, again, just to go over this, looking at it from the back side, I've got 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1 gets 1 from the motor and 1 from the wall. 2 gets 1 from the wall, and 3 gets 1 from the motor. So here we go. Motor, wall, motor on the outside, walls on the inside, if that helps even. I don't know.
While I'm uploading our stuff for the lamp rewiring, I will include this section with a diagram also in visual so that it's very clear what goes where.
Yeah.
And also, thank you, Ida. Ida had posted in the Facebook group a better visual and explanation of the megahertz. So
good.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So
yeah, because I can kind of talk about it a little bit, but I'm not an electrician.
That's my dad. He was an electrician.
Oh, look, everything just came undone as I'm trying to get it back together.
Like everything, I imagine it's very fiddly.
It is. All right, so let's try this again. We're going to go 1 and 3. 1 and 2. And it's just really a matter of getting everything in there, getting it to lay down. I think the hard part is getting this side, right? Because you can see there's enough room for 2 here, 1 and 1, but you got to get them to actually line up in there. And the problem is the one with 2 in it, they want to spread apart and they won't fit in there. So let's see if we can kind of squeeze that just a little bit.
Yeah, that end right there seems to be a problem.
I can use my screwdriver though to push them over into place. Okay. All right.
When you're done, Carrie's going to ask a question about carbon versus electronic.
Oh boy.
Can I have her go ahead and ask it?
Yeah.
Carrie, if you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question, now's a good time.
Yeah. So this is perfect timing. Just yesterday, I put on, or I was playing with the new foot control on the Pfaff, where I put a new motor on. And it's a new foot control that came with the motor, and it's a carbon stack because the person I'm doing it for wanted the vintage look. And so I had said, you'd probably get better control with electronic, which I just kind of know because I've heard that, not exactly from experience. So then I hooked this up, and the motor is really, really powerful. It goes fast. And with this foot control, it has like jumps in power. So especially the very last one, when it makes the like solid connection, it jumps to full speed. And so this out of the box was kind of frustrating. Like, well, that's not a good arc of, power. It just seems like there's a jump between, like, it has a nice slow speed, but then it goes up, 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 up. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam, it's full power. And I was wondering if an electronic foot control would not do that. And also, is there some sort of adjustment for these, or is that just the way they are in general?
I guess it's probably quality, which is that's the downside, is that since these companies aren't manufacturing their own products anymore, they're coming from China, and you get what you get. But yeah, like we had said, 'cause I think you came in just after Paul had said that, the difference in the electronic and the so the electronic is what they call a multi-speed. And so on like the metal
Variable
ones,
speed.
variable, I'm sorry. On the metal ones, it does have the resistor just like a stack of carbons does, where it basically takes how much voltage you have and distributes it all across all of the settings. Whereas the electronic one keeps the amount of power it has, so it's more consistent. So you're going to have the same amount of power, it's just varying the speed. Is that right?
Yeah, for the most part. So basically with the carbon, when the pedal's completely up, you're going to have no power, right?
Mhm.
Completely down, you have 120 volts.
Mhm.
Somewhere in the middle, you get anywhere from 20 volts up to 80 volts, way up to 120, right? With the variable speed foot controllers, which are the plastic ones, like I was showing there, that one, you always have 120 volts. It just varies the frequency. So you still have the same amount of power going to the motor. So you should get a much smoother transition going from stop to, and then increasing your speed. You definitely should get a much smoother transition with the electronic variable speed foot pedal.
And that's why a lot of people that have machines that are having restored feel guilty because they want the plastic one because of its ability. But so I always tell them, just keep your old foot pedal. It can always be changed. But if you're using your machine, it needs to be accommodating what it is you're doing. So my guess is that probably in there, the inconsistencies have to do with the carbons and the way. I don't know. Do you think there's a way to adjust in there? Because if I know in the featherweight ones, if you adjust too much, then you end up with just on or off. So
with the
I
carbon
think
ones, I don't know that they're. Yeah.
I think you're right about the quality, because part of the inconsistency is just like you feel that it's not a nice, like, whatever is moving in there is just not a great connection.
But to be honest with you, even the vintage ones that were original, we see the same things in those, not just because of the nature of the way they're engineered. So I don't think, even if you bought one that was high end, I think you would still experience the same struggles because of the way that the carbons connect.
Okay. Yeah, I'm dreaming of a foot pedal that looks vintage, that has electronic innards.
Yeah, I think there's a market for it.
Yeah.
I wonder if you get the board out of one and get it, but then that's metal, so I don't know.
Maybe
Insulated. Well, you could probably think on that, because now I'm interested in. I mean, couldn't you take a metal and maybe it's the push part that would be
right.
Yeah,
that would be the hard part, is the push,
which is probably why it doesn't exist. But yeah. Most people end up caving and going for the convenient, like the thing that they need the most. So even if it doesn't have the vintage look, if you're using your machine, that's usually what matters, or that's what trumps the other part.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that this is going to be the fix that she wants, because it's mostly a pretty machine that sits at her house. So
yeah, then she's going to want the metal, but that's okay too. I mean, the metal one's fine. If you're not using it all day, every day, then it's only a minor inconvenience. So